Good afternoon, FlossTube. It's Sunday the 23rd of July. I'm Caroline of Caroline's Corner here on FlossTube. I'm in Leeds in the UK and I'm here to do a mid-year WIP parade. I've been quite enjoying watching some of the WIP parades that have been posted, and as I didn't do a WIP parade back in at the beginning of the year, I thought do one now. I've just broken up for the summer holidays after it's been a year from college, and so I just thought I'd be easy on myself and I just felt like going through my WIPs. So here we are. It's a coolish, wet, dismal day here in Yorkshire. So what better to do than have a look at, browse through all my WIPs. For those if you're new here, welcome along. Please feel free to subscribe and like and comment and all this stuff. I do like receiving comments. I will freely admit I am terrible at replying to them, but I do try to eventually. There probably won't be show notes for this episode because we're going away on holiday very soon, and I'll be all on to get this uploaded and edited before I go. So you'll have to pardon me if there's no show notes. So let's crack on with the WIPs. The first set I'm going to go through are the ones I've been working on since I last recorded. For those of you who've been here a while, you know I do a 5-day rotation I do 6 projects a month and work on them for roughly 5 days each. Each month I have a new start. There's a couple of slots for small to medium projects. I work on one of my oldest WIPs, which it's worked on every month. That's at the moment they're class pieces, because I have class pieces going back to 2011, which you will see 2011s in a minute. A large project and a reproduction sampler. The large and the reproduction sampler I sometimes swap in and out. I mostly focus on one piece, so I'll spend a couple of months working on one, and then for a break and change of pace I'll work on a different one for a month, and then I'll go back to my original one. Clear as mud, I know. But so like I said, I thought I'd start with the WIPs I've been working on since I last recorded. So the first one I'm going to show you is my oldest WIP. It is from 2011, and it's a class piece with Ellen Chester, With My Needle. I took this class with Ellen back in 2011 at Fobbles up in Cumbria, and it is the Fruit of the Vine sampler hussif. I am currently working on the sampler bit, which will be the outside of the hussif. Not sure of the fabric, but the threads are mostly dinky dyes with 1 or 2 Glorianas thrown in. So since you last saw this, I think I've put in a couple more rows. I'm doing this over 1, and to break up the over 1 verse, I've taken the border down on this side. So this is approximately the halfway point. So when I finish this verse here, I will have finished page 1 of the 4 pages that make up this sampler. So it's slow, steady going. There's a lot of over 1. All these grapes are the grapes are all over 10 stitch over 1. So, but I'm still loving working on it, and the colours are lovely when I get it done. To get it finished, I've done the needle roll, I've done the stitch the scissor fob. There is a pillow that goes at the bottom of the hussif. Once I've finished stitching the outside of the hussif, I just have the pillow to go, the pin cushion pillow to go, and that will be done. And here are the threads which Ellen put on this hornbook shaped thread keep. So yeah, so that one is getting worked on every month until it gets finished because it is my oldest WIP. And then we get on to the reproduction samplers. If you've been here for a while, you know that my main focus, my reproduction samplers, is Hannah Coates by Hands Across the Sea samplers. This is my oldest reproduction sampler WIP that's not a class piece. So here we are with Hannah. I'm currently working on Hannah. She'll get another 3 days before I put her down. And since you last saw her, I've finished outlining the house and put a bit more down the bottom. Let me see if I can. I finished outlining that house. I put in another sheet down the bottom and done a bit more of the grass since I last showed it. I think I was working on it when I last recorded, so I can't remember how much of the house I'd got in, if I'd done anything. I may have just started it, but nice to see Hannah growing. I'm working her on 40 count light mocha from Zweigart and using the Call for DMCs. Last month I worked on a different reproduction sampler, so it's been quite nice this month to get back to Hannah. But this is what I mean. It's nice solidly for a couple of months on one piece and then just have a break, work on something else, palette cleanser, then go back, rather than, I know me, I will just get frustrated and bored if I'm working on the same piece all the time. I'm not a monogamous stitcher. So the reproduction sampler I picked up last month to work on was Marianne Aldred by Needlework Press. I bought this when it was exclusive kit from the Facebook group Homespun Needlework, run by Julie Casave. So, and here is where I'm up to. Before I put it down, I just had a tiny bit of the leaves on the board. I had the border vine in, or some of the greenery. So I've totally finished the greenery at the top, put in 4 of the strawberries. I'd done the 1/1 star when I put it down, and I put the berry bowl in. So quite pleased with my progress on that. Like I say, I'm just picking up. So many of my projects, as you will see, are just a little bit border because I've only worked on them for a couple of days. So this way of working means that some of them get a little bit of progress in before they're picked up to be focus pieces in my rotation. And Marianne, I'm stitching on 40 count country marker and using the Call for Classic Colourworks. Do like the red in this, the reds in this one, the razzleberry and the ruby slippers, lovely, and the Jakey brown as well is a nice pink. So that's Marianne Aldred. So that's 2 of the reproduction sample WIPs I have on the go. On to my large projects. My main focus for my large projects at the moment is Teresa Wentzler's The Guardian. That's the oldest of them. Started for Mania in 2020. Hannah Coates was also started in 2020. 2021? 2020, I think. Or was it 21? Marianne Aldred was started in January last year. So Teresa Wentzler's The Guardian. You will remember, if you saw my last video, that I'd had a bit of a disaster with my fabric and I'd started it, but I'd rotated my fabric 90 degrees. So I wasn't sure that it was going to fit, so I decided to restart. And I have done my restart in that way around the top corner. So I just have a little bit of border done. This is just some random 28 count cream even weave I had in my stash. I think probably Witchlet even weave or permanent, I'm not sure, it was unlabelled. And I'm using the DMC thread because this was originally a kit, so I'm using the DMC thread that came with the kit to stitch it. So that was 1 month on the Guardian, and then I was due to have a change and pull a different project. So the next project I decided to work on was Christmas Garden, to give me a little bit of Christmas in July stitching. And that's by Blackbird Designs. I have the original booklet, which I bought probably about the time it came out, and it took me till last year to start it. Yeah, 2011. So probably bought that when I went to the class for Ellen's class. So yes, so Christmas Garden. I'm using the Call for overdyed cottons. They're a mix of classic colourworks, 2 classic colourworks and 2 gentle art. And I'm stitching it on 40 over 1/2 on 40 count using, this is it was described as neutral. It's a Zweigart linen. It's just sort of a pale sort of oatmeal-y colour. When I picked this up, I just had a little bit of the border vine. I started it last July and I was having real problems with my hand at the point, so I couldn't do much stitching. So I've done a bit more of the border vine. So I'm past the halfway point going across the top. And then put in all the flower buds around the outside, and made a start on some of the motifs in the top corner. So quite pleased with my progress on that. Nice to have more than just a little bit of border. So yeah, so looking forward to working on that again at some point. Right, since you last saw me, I've had 2 new starts. One of which I can't show you yet because it's a smalls exchange for the Great British Sampler weekend, which I'm going to at the end of September. So I started that on the 1st of June, and that got worked in my small to medium slots in June, and then I have continued working on it in my small to medium slots in July. It is almost finished, but while I stitch for 5 days on something, I very rarely get more than an hour's stitching in at a time. I'm not blessed with the ability to sit down. I'm not a speedy stitcher, hence it having taken quite a while to get. I'm hoping just 1 more slot and it'll be done, and then I can get on and get it finished in time. So that's why you won't see this until I've handed it over, because obviously it's for an exchange, it's a surprise. But in July, my new start was another exclusive from the Homespun Needlework Facebook group. This one was by the Scarlet House last year, and it's called A Sampler for All Seasons. And you got the kit to do the sampler and 2 little pin pillows. So I made a start on the sampler. This is going to be a biggie when it's done. This is 40 count Steinbeck from Needle and Flax linen. This was the linen that came in the kit. along with the called for classic colourworks. And I made a start, got a little bit of border done, and then made a start on getting the winter salt box stitched. Really enjoyed stitching on this one, and it'd be nice to get back to it and get some more done. I do like the chart, but if you didn't fancy stitching all those words, you could just stitch the 4 salt box houses and do a little seasonal sampler that way. I think this is coming out this summer. I think I've seen somewhere, because it'll be a year since it was an exclusive. The year will be up on it being an exclusive, so I think I've seen that this is going to be one of the next lot of releases, a sampler that the Scarlet House puts out. So I'm going to pause here and get my next tranche of WIPs together, and then I'll come back and show you the next lot. Hi, right, sorted. I realised I recorded my first segment and didn't have my microphone on. I've now sorted that out, so hopefully sound quality will be better, but hopefully I'm still okay in the first bit. Right, so I'm going to do a quick run through of the outstanding class WIPs I've got so far, because most of these date from the 2012 to 2018. So they've been hanging around a while as well, but I need to crack through a few of them. The first one is from Forget-Me-Nots in Stitches. Lauren used to come over and teach in London for Susan and Sarah Albury of Hanging by a Thread. So this is from 2012. It's called Glastonbury Garden, and it's a sort of sewing little pouch wallet. And I don't actually have that much left to stitch on this one. I've done the outside of the pouch, I've done the inside, so and I'm working on the pockets. So there's some big pockets to go in. I've about finished another little pocket, and there's 4 more to do. And then I think 3 pockets and a little pin cushion, and then that one will be finished. So when I get to this one, it shouldn't take me too long. I'm not sure what the fabric is, it's what came in the kit, but it's being stitched with Gentle Arts threads. Just a few different colours of Gentle Arts. Nice muted colours on that one. So yeah, when I get back to this one, probably won't take me long to finish the stitching, at least. We won't talk about how long it might take me to actually put it together. And then I didn't pull out the picture on this one, but the next one is also a project from Forget-Me-Nots in Stitches. When did I do this one? This is 2013, and it's called Along the James River Williamsburg Bound, which is another little sewing pocket again. So I've done the outside, so there's this nice scene with the house, and then my initials. I have stitched the inside, which is just sort of borders and then space for the pockets. I have stitched 2 hidden pockets that go inside, and there's 2 pockets with some bargello to do, and I think a couple of little gussets, and again the stitching on that one will then be finished. So when I get to those 2, hopefully won't take me very long, so hopefully shooting for a finish on those 2 next year when I've finished Fruits of the Vine, because I think there's a fair bit of stitching left on Fruits of the Vine, so that will take me into next year, I think, but once I get onto those I should be able to crack them out fairly quickly. The next one is also from 2013, is another project of Lauren's. It's called the Mistress L's sampler, which is this is the top, a long traditional band sampler style. And this is my progress to date. I haven't got very far. I'm about a quarter of the, not even a quarter of the way down, because I have all of this linen still to go. Mistress L is a big girl. So, but again, lovely to stitch. It's being stitched in a mix of silks and sampler threads, as is common with a lot of Lauren's designs. So, sampler threads, and the silks. So yeah, I'm there from the top, so I've still got all that and all that to go. But when I do work on this one, I absolutely love it. So the next one is from 2016, and this was a class I took with Jackie Duplessis of It's Finally Finished. My friend Grace organises classes for Jackie to come over and stitch, and this was the first one I did with her. It's called September Morning, and it is a little sewing box. I actually have a little piece of this actually finished, because that was what we did for the class, which is to stitch this and finish this little pin cushion to get our heads around Jackie's finishing methods. It's being stitched in silks. I'm not sure of the brand, Jackie doesn't say, but they're beautiful. And I finished the large sides of the boxes. So there's two, and the inside, which has just got the polka dots on. And last time when I worked on this last year, I finished up one of the end pieces, and I've made a start on the lining for that end piece, and then I've got the other end pieces to go and the smalls that go with the set to finish. So again, love working on it. It's a lot of over one, I will say. All these flowers stitched over one. Beautiful and delicate, but it does mean it is not a fast stitch. The next one, I'm back to another of Lauren Sowers of Forget Me Nots in Stitches. It's a sampler called CMB 1759. The original sampler is white work, and it's all knots, French knots. I think it's French knots, might have been Palestrina knots, which was beautiful. No way I'm stitching it like that. So Lauren had done a white work version. She'd also done a coloured version, and I opted to do the coloured version. And instead of you had 4 ways of stitching this particular sampler. You could do it as a white work sampler, you could do it as the coloured sampler. You could do it as one long thin sampler, or you could do it as 2 samplers side by side, a wider sampler with 2 panels, which was how the original was. I opted to do the 2 panels, so this is my progress to date. It's been a while since I last worked on that one. Well, everything got worked on last year when I made a point of touching all my WIPs for at least a couple of days at a time. So that's the top, and that So that is one side of the sampler. And that is the other side of the sampler when it's done. And again, I'm not sure of the fabric, I think it's a 36 or 40 count, being stitched with sampler threads and one of Verosoir silk. So that is CMB 1759. Another beauty, and another one I really enjoy working on when I get a chance to work on it. And as Jessie Marie was saying in her WIP Parade, the only problem with getting everything out is you can't work on it all. And then the next class project from, let's check my list, 2017 is One Moment in Time, which is another Jackie du Plessis project. This was offered through the Shining Needle Society, which used to run on Yahoo groups, and it is an online, offers online classes. It's still going. Can't remember what it's running on now. And they mostly do needlepoint, but every so often they'll do a cross-stitch project. So this is another one that's another sewing bag and accessories. It's being stitched in silks, some mix of overdyed silks and some 103 and soy Safine. I have almost finished stitching the bag panels. So I had 8 of these panels to stitch with the little flower at the top, and trying to see the cream soy Safine on cream linen is practically impossible for counting. So doing the outlining has been an absolute nightmare. So I am in the process of outlining the, you probably can't see it, the last panel, then I've got the last set, then they are done. Then I have one more of these pocket panels to do, which are much more fun because there was much more decorative stitching. And then I am on to the smalls, which will be the fun bit, much more fun to stitch. There we go. So that's One Moment in Time by Jackie du Plessis. And then from 2018, I got to take another class with Jackie in person, and it was the Contented Hours basket and hussif. Let's take a look. Stitched in these beautiful Verosoir silks. Haven't got very far with it. I have only stitched the first band on the basket handle, and there are 2 of those to go. So I have just stitched one of those, and there's 2 of those to go, and then it's on with the rest of the basket. Again, really enjoy stitching it. When I work on it, would love to get, so I'm working on it a whole lot more, but we'll get there. Now, the last of my class projects I took in, was it 2018? at Fobbles. Nicola Parkman of Hands Across the Sea Samplers came and taught the Iberthia sampler at Fobbles, and I was lucky enough to go. So I don't have much of a start. There is a teaching piece that goes with it where Nicola was teaching us all the reversible techniques. But last time I picked this up, when I picked this up last year to work on it, when I was doing my touch or my WIPs, I decided I'd start on the sampler itself, and I've also decided I am not making it reversible in the interest of actually getting it finished. I want to actually finish the sampler and be able to enjoy having it on my walls, and no one's going to see the back. So I have a little bit of a start in the white work at the top. I haven't done too badly making it reversible so far, but it's relatively easy to do with the satin stitch letters. I just know that if I try and make it properly reversible, it will end up not getting finished, and I would like to get it finished. So I think this has been stitched on 40 count, but I'm not sure. I think 40 count with a Verosoir silks. So that is all the projects that come under my class project. So I'm going to put these away before I lose threads and stuff gets mixed up, and then I will be back with the next tranche of projects. Just bear with me. Right, let's get on to my reproduction sampler WIPs. I don't have a huge number, so this will be quite a short segment. Let's have a mouthful of coffee first, because you've already seen two of them that I've worked on quite recently, in Mary Ann Aldred and Hannah Coates. The other one that I've worked on this year is the sampler house, is Rebecca Howells, 1856, which I'm stitching using the called for needlepoint ink silks. I'll sort it out. There we go. I like to, those sort of silks, I kept them in floss away bags for years, and I've no plans on changing that. And I'm using a 40 count cream linen. When I picked it up this year, I got the border in down the side. So I'm halfway around the border now and putting the leaves in. So quite pleased with my progress on that one. Looking forward to working on her on a bit more of a permanent basis, but we'll see. My next reproduction sampler is one of those where I've only got a little bit of border. Anne Grant, which is a shame because she's a beauty, is Anne Grant by Shakespeare's peddler, Teresa Vanette, Kitten Stitcher. I'm mostly using the called for colours. There was a couple of thread gatherer silks called for I couldn't find, so I have gone via the DMC conversion and pulled out a couple of water lilies from my stash to use for that. And this is my pretty meagre progress to date. This is why every 2 months I'm pulling out one of my larger projects to do a bit more work on. So they're not just like this, which is 2 days work when I started it. This is being stitched on 40 count latte linen from the Northumbria Sampler House, which is beautiful linen to stitch on. So yeah, so that's Anne Grant. Again, not a huge amount of progress on her either. Next up is Rose Ada Featherstone, which was a exclusive design to Hobby House Needleworks from Hands Across the Sea. Again, she's mostly border so far, but I'm almost across the border. I was having real problems. The thread used for the border, the over-dyed thread used for the border is a Valdani, and I just found it was disintegrating on me. I had to use really, really short lengths. And again, I was working on this one when I had problems with my hand. So, but I'm quite pleased with how much border I got done. And I'm doing the version that's using the over-dyed cottons. So there's my cottons. Not sure what the fabric is because I don't have a note of it in my bag. So I shall have to go back and have a look at my order list and see if I can see what it was. So that was Roseada Featherstone. Now onto the ones I've started this year. So my start in January was Fox and Rabbit, Elizabeth Broadhead 1833, which again was an exclusive design through the Facebook group Homespun Needlework in 2021, I think, 21, 22. I know this is now on release, so it's obviously over a year ago. Again, I'm using the overdyed cottons to keep it more affordable. We got this lovely bit of floss bling and some floss cards from Bren and Karen. And this was my progress on Elizabeth. All border again, barring I made a little start on the, and this is how big it will be eventually. I think this is being stitched on 40 count baked clay by Fox and Rabbit. But I was quite pleased with my progress for 5 days. Got a fair bit of it's quite a complicated border, so I was quite pleased to get a fair bit of that done. And I love the colours. And then the next one, this is slightly out of order because I started this in last September, is the Scarlet House Mary Betchell 1810. Loved this sampler since it came out, and I love the colours of the silks, particularly that red, which is tulip. So these are Belle Soie silks in classic colourworks. And I actually had, I was stitching this watching the Queen's funeral last year. That's when I started it, and I got a fair bit done because I went down with COVID then, thanks to my grotty offspring bringing it home from school. I'm stitching this on a pace of fibre on a whim, Alphagado, I think it is. So I've got the border totally outlined. And last time I picked it up, I was working on the flowers, putting the detail in on the border. So yeah, that was a fun one. It really was a fun one to work on. The last WIP that you haven't seen is another new start from this year, which is Florence Mary Dickinson, which was last year's exclusive from Hobby House Needleworks. And again, I'm using the cottons, so I'm using the DMC. It came with a Minnie McBean's frippery, very pretty, for my floss jewellery. Lovely, lovely bright colours. And it's being stitched on 40 count creme brulee by Tabby Cat Linen. I got the whole of the border vine in, which I was very pleased about, so I know it all matches up, and made a small start on putting in the flowers on the border. So that is 5 days stitching from earlier this year. Really, really looking forward to getting some more in on Florence, because she's absolutely gorgeous and so beautiful and jolly with all those flowers. So that is all the reproduction samplers I've got on the go at the minute. So I'm going to pause again and then I will get on my large projects. Okay, here we go, large projects. You've seen a couple of them. You've seen The Guardian and you've seen Christmas Garden. So here are the rest of the large projects, what I class as large projects that I currently have on the go. First one is by The Drawn Thread. Now I love The Drawn Thread and I have quite a large collection of her designs. I haven't bought many recently, but of her, all her earlier ones I've got quite a lot. I was gifted the kit to stitch this one back when this came out in about 2002, was it? Can't remember. Just have a quick look at the pattern, see if it says 2002. Yeah, I had it a while. So yes, so I was gifted the silk pack. So this is needle pointing silks. And here is where I'm up to. I think I've got about the top third of the bands in the middle. Still a fair bit to go. I need to bring the borders down to match the bits I've stitched so far. So love stitching on this. It's a beautiful design. So this is the Drawn Thread. An open heart. I'm not sure what the linen is. The called for is cafe au lait, but it might be elegant bean. I don't have a record anymore because I think the kit came from Elegant Stitch and Lois may have kitted it up with elegant bean. My next large WIP is Black Magic by Just Nan. Again, I was gifted the chart and the silk pack to stitch it back when it came out. This is another one from the early 2000s. It's 2004, which is why I thought it better get a move on. So it's a mix of Vera Soie and Soie d'Alger silks. And quite a lot of, I didn't realise when I started, quite a lot of this one is over one. So yeah. So I'm stitching this one on a random piece of cream linen that I found in my stash that is the right size. From the see-throughness, I think it's probably Permin linen, but I didn't have a label on it. There we go, so that's where I'm up to. Just got one of the lines of the verse. I made a start on the flowers in the corner. So the next large WIP I have is from Brenda Gervais with Needle and Thread. It's the Birds of a Feather mystery sampler, which I bought when it came out. I noticed she did ask recently whether people felt she should reprint this, so if you're looking for it, I think there may be a possibility that Brenda is considering reprinting it. I hope so, because it's a beautiful sampler. I'm using all the called for threads for it, and I'm stitching it on the called for Weeks Dye Works linen. I've just done a bit up in the corner. I've actually got to now frog most of what was there because I made a mistake on this flower, so this all needs to come out because this is too close. So when I get back to that, I'm going to be doing some major frogging. And it'll be quite a reasonably big piece when it's done. I do love again, I like the reds. in the flowers, red in the flower, it's beautiful, and I look forward to getting a bit more done, or at very least ripping back what I did wrong so that then I can go forward again. My next one is on the Just Nan sampler. This is a really old sampler. It's Just Nan chart number 4, A Breath of Spring. I've always loved these seasonal charts, and I'm planning on stitching them all at some point. Using the Call for DMC with one watercolour in there. And this is my progress to date on it. I'm using 32 count, it's cream linen. I think it was winter something it was actually called, but cream linen, and that's where I got to when I started it. I'm on to the third band. So I really enjoyed stitching on that when I got to work on it. It's only had one weekend, so hopefully when I get back to it, it'll grow quite quickly. I know technically this is a series of smalls, but I'm classing it as a large project because I'm classing them all as one project, and they're all over one. This is the Summer Schoolhouse series from Brenda Gervais with Thy Needle. I've only made a start on the first one, but I do have all the other ones ready to go with their fabric cut, and using the Call for threads. And this is how far I've got with the first design. Just got the bit of the house outlined and in. So doing some house building. Slow going because it's over one, but when I work on it, and I'm using the Call for Mushroom Lugana, but when I do get to work on it, I really enjoy it. There we go. Next up is another drawn thread design. It is the Carter number 1 from 2003. I've actually stitched Toccata number 2, so I'm decided I needed to do Toccata number 1, and I think I've got 3 kitted up in my stash. I may have another one, I'm not sure, but it's an absolute beauty. And again, I was gifted the thread pack and the fabric pack. So this is my progress on it. So I didn't do too bad on that one, got quite a bit done. So really looking forward to getting some more done on that. Yep, down to the halfway point on the border down that side, so not too far to go, and I'll have stitched a quarter. Well, I think I've stitched about a quarter of it, maybe a bit more to go before I've done a quarter. Slightly over the halfway point on the, slightly past the middle on the top. But, so, very pleased with how far I got on that one for the one time I pulled it out. I do love the drawn thread designs. So, I have quite a large collection of drawn thread designs. Next one that I started towards the end of last year was Winter Moon by Shepherd's Bush. I think this is one of the I have on the wall there the first Shepherd's Bush chart I ever bought, which was Potting Shed. This was the second one, and it's sat there for 20 years waiting to be stitched. It's the kit with the silks, and that was my progress when I picked it up. I was quite pleased with how much I got done on the top of the sampler. Just working on the moon up the top for the time being. To say it only got a weekend, it's got quite a bit of, was quite satisfied with my progress on that one. There's quite a lot of stitching up the top. That top bit is quite solidly stitched. And the last of my current large projects is a petite sampling etui. This was a limited edition project. It was Cherished Stitches, Praiseworthy Stitches, The Stitching Parlour and With My Needle back in 2008 for one of the markets. And I got the kit, so I got the fabric and the call for threads. I didn't get the finishing kit at the time. Susan didn't have one left, so but I should be able to get it. I know I'll be able to get all the supplies I need. So those were the threads, all what are now classic colourworks. Back then were crescent colours. That's how long I've had it. And when I picked it up, I basted all the panels, and that was where I got to on the first one. I did actually have more stitched, but again I had miscounted and needed to rip back. It was, as this is all, I was working on that panel there, that's up there as well. So I'd got the garland in, but I actually miscounted at one point, so I needed to rip it back because I was not ripping back the over one I had stitched. So that will go back in next time. So there's only that little bit of over one so far, but again, looking forward to getting back to that one at some point. I don't know when. Right, that's all my large projects. Then I'm just going to put all these away, because if I don't put it all away, something will get lost. I've already found a random needle and I have no idea where it's come from. So I'm going to put these away, and then I will get all my small to medium projects out. See you in a bit. I'm back for the final section of my WIP Parade, which is all my small to medium projects, of which there are quite a lot, as you might aware. So from the beginning, one you've seen a fair bit of this year is the From the Heart Nantucket Basket set by Lois of Elegant Stitch. This was a breast cancer fundraiser that she did back in the early 2000s. So I've got the basket. I've stitched all the other pieces in this set that she released before she released this one. So I think it was 2003, 2004 for this. So there was the basket fob, the pin cushion, which you've seen before. It's using sort of DMC and Weeks Dye Works threads. It's carnation and thistle, the threads. The the thread keep is from Kelmscott. And I'm working on the first of the basket bands. There's 4 of them to do. I say it's not been worked on recently because I've been working on my exchange piece for the retreat, but as soon as I finish that, I will be getting back to that one. And this next one, which is the Milk Plate Paint Sampler Thread Keep by Mary Gary's Sewing Cabin, which was Remember the Ladies kit from Krynic that they put out to promote their milk paint silk moire. So the kit came with the chart and the silks, and you provided the fabric. These are the silk colours, beautifully soft. And this is my progress to date on the thread keep. I finished one side and I'm just working on the other side. There's a house and some Quaker motifs and the lady sitting stitching. So my goal for these are my last two WIPs from 2019, so my goal is to get them finished by the end of the year, and then we will see what we do about my small to medium plan. I've got a vague plan to incorporate WIP Go into these for next year, but if Jessie Marie is still doing WIP Go, excuse me. Right, onto the ones from 2020. So the first one was just now an exclusive from the early 2000s, called And Many More. This was an exclusive from the Silver Needle. It was the companion piece to Scissor Keep that Just Nan did for the Silver Needle to celebrate their 20th anniversary, which was called 20 Flowers, which I have already did. And I figured it was time to crack on with And Many More. This is using Splendor silks. They're very, very lush to work with. And this is how far I've got. I'm just on with the first panel. So it's just a folding needlework. When it's done. So yeah, so I'm on with that side so far, and when I work on it, it grows quite quickly. It's just I don't get work on it very often. My next one from 2020 is another of the Remember the Ladies series from Krynic, and this is a design from Kathy Barrick in her Barrick Samplers Day, Carriage House Samplers, when she was designing for them. Called Girls Night Out. It's all stitched, intense stitch over one. Again, using the silk moire. So again, it was the kit came with the silks and the chart. I was gifted this by a friend, and she included some linen as well. So it's being stitched on 36 count Dawn's Early Light from R&R. And as you can see, I've just made a start on the first of the borders. Once you get your eye in, it goes quite well. Not sure what I'll do with it when I've finished the stitching. I might make it into a needlework, we shall see, because I've got plenty of linen to play with, because it's not going to take all of that. Then next we have from Plum Street Samplers, The Beekeeper, which I bought when it was an exclusive from Market in 2014 and didn't start till 2020. So again, using all it came as a kit, so I got the threads and the linen. Let me move my needle so we don't have dangling threads. And this is where I've got up to with the Beekeeper. Making quite good progress up the bee skep there. So that's the Beekeeper by Plum Street Samplers. Next up is a kit I was gifted by a friend who decided she wasn't going to stitch it, and she also gifted me with the Liberty Hill box, which I've got downstairs. It's a little set by Mary Cox called Williamsburg Folk Art Sewing Box with accessories. So we've got the Folk Art Sewing Box, and you stitch a little pin keep, scissor keep, and needlework. So I have made a small start on the pin keep, And these are the threads, DMC and one, I think it's a Gentle Art thread. Again, my thread keep is from Kelmscott. And I think the green linen is Weeks Dye Works. Then we have another sampler house chart, a sampler grows, a little pillow and scissor keep. I'm stitching this in silks. Where I had the called for silks, I pulled them from my stash. Where I didn't, I used the DMC to get a match from the other silks. So it's a mix of solid alga and needlepoint ink. And this is how far I got. I'm stitching this on some 40 count Lakeside pearlized barley that I had left over from stitching Dorothy Walpole. So just got a bit of the house there so far. It'd be nice to get back and get some of these, because a bit of concentrated stitching and some of these would be finished. And then the next one is by Heart in Hand and it's Summer Bird. I have stitched winter and I have stitched spring. So I want to get the rest of the seasons done. Mostly using the call for colours, except I've substituted Classic Colourworks Red Currant for, I think it's Brick. Weeks Dye Works Brick, because I didn't have any to hand and it's about the right colour. And that's my progress so far on that bird. Again, that's just a couple of days stitching. And they don't take long once I create a cracking with them. So yeah, let's get that back. I think that one was started in 2021. We're on to the 2021 ones. This is probably at the top end of what I consider a small to a medium chart. It might even really be tipping over into large, but this is the Sampler Cove Quaker Hussif. I'm stitching this using the callful threads and linen, and the callful thread is Gloriana Rosewood. Now I didn't think I had enough, and the other skein I got is a much brighter colour of rosewood. So what I'm doing is using the darker skein for the border and the lighter skein for the motifs in the middle, because I'd already used some of the darker skeins, so I didn't know whether I'd have enough or not. So that's my progress so far on the Quaker Hussif. I do love that one, and I have the finishing kit. I have the red finishing kit, which is why I wanted to with all the red silk for the inside, which is why I wanted to stitch it using the rosewood and not start all over. So next up, it is a needlework garden and needlebook by Old Colonial Designs. Again, I have the basket and it's been sat on the shelf for years. So I wanted to get this one started and crack on. I bought the kit when I got it, so I'm using the call for threads on 32 count light mocha linen, and this is what I've got done so far. Got that the vase of flowers done, and that made a start on the alphabet underneath. So I love working on that one when I get to it. Like I say, going through all these just makes me want to work on them. The next one is called Pretty in Pink, and it's another breast cancer fundraiser that Elegant Stitch did. This is a design by Jackie Duplessis, so it's finally finished. Again, it's one where you bought the kit. So there's a Gloriana silk, some green DMC Flosh. And that's where I've got to so far, just working my way around the outline of one of the pieces for the, so you stitch 4 of these pieces. I think it was, if I remember right. So that's where I've got to date. Then we have another breast cancer fundraiser. This is the This Too Shall Pass series, which Lois did after she'd done the From the Heart. So this is 2006. So and there was a scissor pouch and a pin keep, and then the box. And I've stitched the other 2, so I just need to finish the box. Again, there's one Gloriana and mostly needlepoint silks. And this is where I've got to. I have all the panels outlined, and I have got 2 of them stitched. I've got the moon and I've got the bee. So there's one that's a beaded monogram, and then yep. And then I think I only, then there's little bits in these as well. And then it'll be ready for assembly. Kind of looking forward to getting the whole set for both of those, for the From the Heart finished and the This Too Shall Pass. Then the last one from 2021 is another market exclusive. This one was from Indigo Rose, called the Remember Me photo album. So you stitch a cover to go on a little photo album. It's all DMC thread. And I have just worked on the spine of the album so far. That's as far as I'd got. When I've been, so again, this one's only had a couple of days, so, but and again, it's one that I absolutely had to have, and has then been sitting in my stash for the best part of 20 years. So it is definitely time some of these got stitched up. Right, we're on to 2022. And the first thing I stitched in starting 2022 was from the Thank You for Sarah Tobias book by Blackbird Designs. And find it. And I am stitching Sarah's ABC pincushion there. It's being stitched on a piece of 32 count vintage mocha from Lakeside Linens, using Red Clay by Gloriana. And that is where I've got to. I'm back at the halfway point, working across the pincushion. So that won't take a lot of stitching when I get back to it. So yeah, so hopefully I'll get that stitch finished some point next year. Then we go to the last of the little seasonal birds. I do want to get some more of these little birds. I got to get the coffee one at some point. But this is Autumn Bird. Again, using the Call for over dies. Being stitched on 32 count summer khaki linen, and I actually got a decent amount done on that one. more so than my other one because I've got the bird finished. I made a start on the pumpkin. So again, it won't take a lot of finishing up when I get there. Then we come to a real oldie but goodie. This is Sheepish Designs Remember Me. This is from 1988. I didn't buy it in 1988, but the design is from 1988. I'm using the Call for DMCs, which are a lovely muted palette on lambswool linen, and that is what I got stitched when I worked on it, which I do think, I'm actually thinking when I actually finish stitching this one, I'll probably finish it as a drum. I think it would make quite a nice drum, but I'm very loving how it's coming out. Then we have Quaker Hornbook from With Thy Needle. Now this is a piece that Ellen only releases to girls for classes, and I got mine through the Sampler Guild, again, when Ellen first released it many years ago, and it's been sat there again waiting to be stitched. I'm stitching mine in Pacific Blue Gloriana, over 1 on 32 count, and I am stitching this top one. So I got the swan medallion. Got cracked on well with the swan medallion on that one. Very pleased with how much I got done on that one. So that was Quaker Hornbook. Then we have another sampler house, Scarlet House rather, the Samplers. Using the Cool Full threads. And this is where I got 2 with it. I'm stitching it 1/2 on 40 count light mocha. So a nice little bit of progress for a weekend working on that one. Again, would love to get back to it, but we shall see how we do. And then we come to Woolly Winter, which was Shepherd's Bush. This is the last of the little seasonal samplers that I need to stitch. I've done spring, summer and autumn to date. I was gifted the kit and the leftover threads by a friend, so I'm using silk threads, and I'm stitching on a piece of Twilight Blue 32 count Jobelin, and that was where I got to. Just made a start on the snowman. So that is all my 2021 small pieces. And now I'm on to the ones I started. No, I did start this one in 2021, I tell a lie. I just changed up to my 5-day rotation by that point. This is the Life's a Gift Untie the Ribbon from 2012, which is another breast cancer fundraiser piece from Lois. Formerly Elegant Stitch, now Lady Dot Creates. And I stitched I think that's mostly DMC threads. Oh no, actually I think the pinks might be, I think that might be geranium. I'm not sure what that one is. It's a like a classic colour. Get the right over-dyed cotton. They are Gentle Arts. So I've done the monogram for the monogram full, and 1/2 of the ruler keep, and I was working on the other half. And then there is a, as far as actual stitching goes, just a little sewing pouch, but there are other things to put together. You put together the strawberry and the very flowery scissor fob, and a little pin cushion, and I've got the box as well, came as a complete kit. So it'd be nice to get that one done. Then definitely we're now into this year, the Strawberry Fields stitching bag and accessories. Again, this is a class kit that Hillside Samplings used to do. I got it through Traditional Stitches about 20 years ago. It's sat there for that long. It does make it easier to deal with the ooh and the FOMO when I look at my shelves and I see how many things I absolutely had to have and are still sat there unstarted. Doesn't mean I don't succumb to it every so often, probably more often than I really should, but I do. There you go. Yeah, so this is the Strawberry Fields stitching bag and accessories, and I made a start on the stitching bag. Made good progress on the first half of the stitching bag. Again, this is using DMC, and it will be really, really nice to get that one finished, it having sat there for so long. Almost at the bottom of the pile. So the next one is from April this year. It's from the Honeysuckle Manor book by Blackbird Designs, which I think that Alma has now reprinted, because I did see that Kitten Stitcher has this in stock. I bought it when it came out. And I am stitching Hannah Lavinia Jolson, 1856. Okay. I'm using all the call for over-dyed threads. And I'm stitching it on a piece of 36 count oatmeal from Sparkly's. And that's where I got to when in my 5 days on this one this month. In April, I got all the border in and made a start and put in some of the flowers in and a little birdie down the bottom. So, looking forward, like I say, to getting back to that one. We're putting 5 days on some of them this year. That's why there's a little more progress on some of these charts. And finally, from Stacey Nash Primitives, the Bees and Birds sewing roll. Again, I bought this when it was an exclusive through the Facebook group Homespun Needlework. I think it is now on general release. I think it came out at market this year. And it came as a kit with all the overdyes and the threads. So that's where I got to. I got quite a decent start on that one. Made a start on the outer border, the inner border, and started stitching the thimble up the top. So there you go, that's all my WIPs. My phone battery has managed to survive this long, thankfully. So I'm going to put everything away again before the family gets home. They've all been out this afternoon, hence being able to record, and and I want to get this uploaded before we go away next week. So have a good summer. I shall be back with a more regular episode end of August, beginning of September, before I go back to college, and we'll catch up then, and I'll fill you in on where we're on our holidays. So take care, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.